everybody. So glad you guys came today. Thank you so much. You can clap if you want to. Yeah, that meant clap. Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, we are here at Mount Upton, New York. We are outside, and I am more than 6 feet away, so I'm going to remove my mask so you guys don't get mad at me. I'm doing the right thing so I can speak. I appreciate that. Why in the world would I come up from Queens, New York, 4 hours to sit here in Mount Upton, New York, to do this and to talk to you guys? Why would I? Because what we're talking about today matters. What we're talking about today matters for what I've been talking about for years, and that is local control. I have been talking about local control for years because it matters, because we need to bring our communities back and stop having one city, whether that city is Albany or New York or DC or whatever city that is, stop having one city control the entire state or one city control the entire country, but instead bring some actual power back to the local communities. But more importantly, not just the power, but also the money, but also transparency, but also to live our lives the way we want to live our lives. That's what I've been talking about, and I believe that. This isn't my first time doing this. Some of you may remember in Utica, here in New York State also, in Utica, they were going to put a hospital downtown, and they're still trying to do that, but the hospital downtown, using eminent domain and trashing the entire area, putting over 40 businesses out, gone, packing up and leaving. And guess how much control the local community had? Virtually none. And again, who's going to fund that? Local taxpayers fund their own demise. Again and again, local taxpayers, without their own consent, fund their own demise. This happens all the time. This happens in New York State. It happens upstate, downstate. Enough for me to say, enough's enough. Let's try to stop this. And today, I want to, you all watching, I know many of you are watching, you all who came, thank you so much. I want you to hear some people who care about their local community, who care enough to put this together. And also thanks, of course, to Thomas Queter, who put this together for his campaign. Thank you so much, Thomas, for that. Thank you. And putting these people together to talk about this issue. They care about this. He cares about them. The first person I want to bring up, if I could, I hope you guys can hear me. We're on the road right here. Is, yes, I'm sorry, someone I want to bring up here, a fellow vet. You guys know I'm a Marine Corps vet, and I have a fellow vet here, a retired colonel, Jennifer, I say it right, Caci? Caci, that's what I said. I said Caci. I was testing her to see if she got it right. She did. You passed. Yes. Who retired after 29 years serving our country. Medical service. Spent time in Iraq and Afghanistan, so she's seen how government works. She's seen the real deal. She understands what's happening. And her last 17 years, she spent in environmental science and in the environment. She knows what she's talking about. She has a master's degree in entomology and applied ecology. Look at that. Pretty impressive. Please put your hands together for Jennifer. Caci, yes.
Right. Hey, thanks. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the introduction. And thanks, Tom, for inviting me to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you about a subject which I find to be very important. So for the purpose of today's event, it bears repeating that a critical part of my job in the Army is focused on identifying and categorizing environmental risks and soldiers, and then advising commanders on how to mitigate those risks to minimize their impact. But the difference between my experience in the Army and what's happening right now is that soldiers don't have a choice. We have to go where the fight is, regardless of the environmental risks.
Yes.
The Army has to first worry about the enemy, not about things like burning sulfur or asbestos-laden buildings or formaldehyde-treated lumber, which are all things we dealt with downrange. We did our best to warn soldiers of what those known risks were in advance, but there were simply times when we didn't know what we were going to face. However, when it comes to the turbines, there is plenty of science out there. We do know what the environmental risks are to both humans and animals. The evidence is clear and it is scientifically supported. but it's being blatantly ignored by state and local government. So I'm speaking today on behalf of the Guilford Coalition of Non-Participating Residents, of which I am one of the founding members, because some of the health risk data that's being used by Calpine previously and now Northland is simply not sound. I don't believe the community has been appropriately or accurately informed about what these risks are, especially when it comes to pulse and steady state noise and infrasound. The information that's being used by the wind industry to try to get these projects through is essentially hiding the most dangerous levels of sound and infrasound from the community. This so-called nuisance impact is being completely dismissed, despite the fact that shadow flicker, another one of the significant problems for the local communities, is literally chasing residents into their own basements for weeks to months at a time in order to get away from it. The negative effects of detectable noise, or the stuff that you can hear on a daily basis, above certain levels is well known. We know that loud noises can hurt our ears, right? But in the case of wind turbines, an accurate assessment of the noise they create, or the sound they create, means you have to do readings for two different types. You have to do steady state noise, which is noise that you can hear all the time, and you have to look at what's called pulse noise, so that you know when the highest levels are occurring and what they are, because those can be the ones most dangerous to you. So again, both Calpine and now Northland are averaging these two types of noise, meaning it's masking those highest levels that we're being exposed to. So you could be hearing noises that are loud enough to damage your hearing, but not even realizing it, because the wind turbine companies are saying it's all fine, it's all below these certain decibels, so it means everybody's okay. Now, probably a more significant problem that we're facing is called infrasound. This is generally inaudible sound, and it's less than 20 hertz, so really low sound. But the negative effects of this are only more recently being discussed. This is largely because more and more people are now being put in close proximity to larger and larger turbines around the world. And this is exacerbating the problem for people. It's estimated that between 10 and 30% of the population have some sensitivity to infrasound. And this is beyond people who already have a condition such as epilepsy or who may fall somewhere on the autism spectrum. The problems that these folks are dealing with run the gamut of things, from sleep disturbance, dizziness, nausea, headaches, panic attacks, and depression. I think plenty of us are already dealing with these issues because of COVID-19, and now we're facing additional challenges on top of that, which probably could be avoided in the long term if someone would listen to us. But based on the well-supported scientific study of these things, the effects are partly a result, when it comes to infrasound, of the fact that we can't hear it. So that means we can't consciously or subconsciously protect ourselves from it. So unless you want to sleep with headphones on, protecting your ears at night, there isn't a way for your body to kind of shut the sound off. Ultimately, we're responding to it physiologically, even if we can't hear that it's hurting our ears. So again, going back to a lot of the evidence that exists, since smaller turbines than those being proposed here, some of the largest in the world, are causing these problems for folks, it is safe to assume that the larger turbines are going to present an even greater problem for those of us, especially in less than 20-kilometer distance from them. I hear oftentimes that people think that infrasound's not a problem, you don't have to worry about it, it's out there in the environment, and all that's true. But if you are one of the naysayers, you might want to look into the fact that the U.S. Army actually studied infrasound for many years to use it as a weapon against the enemy. The only reason they stopped studying infrasound was because it did not have a uniformly negative impact across all of the people it was targeting. That in and of itself should lead us to question exactly what we're doing by setting up these turbines in such close proximity to the average citizen. When it comes to shadow flicker, which again gets poo-pooed oftentimes, oh, just put some blinds up. Well, just go online and YouTube some of the videos. I'll tell you specifically, go to one about arc Detroit, New York, and you will learn that blinds do not work against shadow flicker. And there is one man in one of those YouTube videos who literally brought me to tears. And he is the person who is being chased into his basement by shadow flicker because it is so difficult for him personally and many others in that community to handle that. So as we move on, sorry, let me make sure I'm back in my place. So as far as that level of sensitivity to ultrasound, to infrasound is concerned, it is fairly widespread across the community. It is a topic and a concern that needs to be more specifically investigated, and not by wind turbine companies who keep telling everyone, this is fine, look at our science, look what we did. Well, they have a vested interest in convincing people that it's not going to hurt people. So we need disinterested parties to come and tell us what's happening, to do readings and measurements so that we can trust the information that's being fed to us. The number of places around the world where turbines of this size are established already on land is really limited. So hard data for this proposed size turbine is also limited. Building this project in Guilford at this time essentially offers up the community as a petri dish of subjects to be studied later on, both human and animal, exposing us to an unknown level of risk in exchange for limited gains, which only benefit a small portion of our community. In some ways, this seems like the Walmart of the mid-1990s, early to mid-1990s, when they would just come in and they would fight long enough until the town ran out of money and we couldn't protect ourselves anymore. And now what do we have? Our beautiful, formerly beautiful, vibrant main streets are full of shuttered stores, and our small businesses hang on the brink of failure because Walmart was pushed and welcomed in by people who weren't necessarily the ones who were going to have to suffer the consequences in the long term. There are millions and millions of acres of uninhabited land across the United States. So why would we choose functioning farmland and forests in close proximity to humans and domestic animals to build giant wind turbine facilities? This is not about green energy, it's about money. And until that fact is found, small towns across northern New York, upstate New York, will continue to be exploited for other people's gain. Personally, I tread lightly on the earth. I try to, and I'm a proponent for alternative forms of energy, but I am a citizen and a scientist first. And until this information is accurately assessed and honestly shared with the community so they can make an informed decision, this project should not move forward.
Yeah.
In conclusion, this project is going to permanently and fundamentally change the fabric of the town of Guilford. And while there may be some benefits with jobs and renewable energy, I'm confident that the risk being assumed as it pertains to the health of our community and the loss of both the tangible and intangible characteristics of Guilford simply make it not worth the risk and extremely difficult to justify. If you'd like some more information, please check out our website, www.saveguilford.com, and join our cause.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, we lucky to have people like the good Colonel. See how I didn't have to say your name with that one? The good Colonel to actually be here and care and think. Look, you might agree with her. You might not agree with her. But here's what I'm sure of. We want to know what's going on, don't we? We want to make sure that we get the right information out to everybody. Of course we do. So that we can decide to take the risks that we want to take. That's for ourselves, but also for our environment too. It isn't only the individual person who can be hurt, but it can be other parts. And I have someone else I want to bring up today to bring that up if I could. You'll be nice to me, right? Thank you. Yes, of course. I want to bring up Anya Lawrence. Is that okay? Anna Lawrence. There we go. See, not so bad. I did that one better, right? Yes. She's a founder and co-chair of Broome County Concerned Residents. And she's come here too. Thank you so much. She's originally from the Netherlands, but she's lived in Japan, Sweden, Hong Kong, where she's been a manager in all those countries, seeing what's going on at many levels. She moved to this area about 2014 full-time, and she jumped into action. And she found, as soon as she found out this was happening in her community, industrial wind facilities, she wants to talk about that today. She has been fighting the Bluestone Wind Project for the past, 6 years now? How long? 20 months. I say 6 years because it sounds cool. So anyway, please give a warm hand, if you could, to Anna Lawrence.
Thank you for that introduction. Thank you, Teddy, for your speech. Yes, I'm going to talk mostly about environmental impacts. There are so many different problems with these projects, and all of these impacts, all of these dangers are swept under the carpet. From health impacts to environmental impacts, it doesn't matter. Pointing case the health impact, even the World Health Organization has standards. And I want to speak to them. They actually claim that, oh yeah, those are European standards. Americans don't complain as much, so we might as well just make more noise, basically. And for environmental impacts, it's no different. This project, any wind project, is supposedly designed to help us combat global warming, to do something useful for the environment. But in our case, for example, no net CO2 emission benefits have ever been proven. And last year, the United Nations came out with a report, and it was called 1 million species going extinct within the next 10 years. And they list several reasons why this could happen. Number 3 was global warming. Number 1 was loss of habitat. Human greed and loss of habitat. Our project, and this is one of the reasons why we are really most upset about it, besides of our rights taken away, our property values, it's smack in the middle of federally protected birds. The eagles are federally protected birds, but even those are not sacred. Nothing is sacred because we have to build these projects and we have to just push them to the pipeline against everybody's wishes because we want to show that we are doing something useful. So, like I said, I have been fighting this project that we are facing for about since it was December 18 that we got a letter. In January 19, February 19, there was the first public meeting about this. We were first informed about it. Meanwhile, the applicant had already filed all their papers online and was far into the development of this project. Article 10, which is designed to overlord large energy utilities being cited, takes away all of the local say, and also takes away things like the SERP Act, which demands that a decent, comprehensive environmental impact study is done. It is replaced by very vague regulations, and only the applicant has to identify the impacts and then mitigate them to the maximum extent possible or even feasible. So that gives them all these out. Like, okay, we know it might kill some eagles, but we can't do anything about it. So there we are. We might install a camera and that's it. And that is probably one of the most frustrating things for us citizens to be dealing with this kind of lackadaisical approach to oversight. May I say that the DEC was there with the Clean Water Act. You couldn't cross a stream. You couldn't go on a shaky culvert to do anything with water when it came to fracking or when it came to building a pipeline. But where are these guys now? When we ask them to look at these plans, they do nothing. They literally do nothing. And all of these regulations, including protected species, are just swept under the rug. About hiding information that is dangerous, that is definitely happening in our case as well. The US Fish and Wildlife, they did a study, Bayesian risk analysis, about how many eagles actually would be targeted and killed because of this project. Those numbers are far into the double digits. I've been exposed to those numbers, but I was sworn to secrecy because it was part of what they called, whatever, settlement hearings was the word. And I was a party as BCCR, Broome County Concerned Citizens, and we were allowed to listen in and hear these numbers. We couldn't share them with the press. And the applicant actually managed to keep these numbers hidden. It was confidential information, and it would hurt their application if it was coming out. The Audubon Society, who is normally a pro-wind organization, they say, okay, if we have to build these things, this will help our environment. Renewable energy is, of course, the support. They demand that these numbers are being exposed. They partner with us a lawsuit against the state for signing this project without revealing these details. Why is it that we ask to use Fish and Wildlife? We try to foil these numbers, bring out this report, but we have not been able to put our fingers on these. Who is doing this? Albany. They want this, and they really have very little care. And I think that hypocrite approach, there's double standards about when they can use the law when it suits them, and then they can just totally ignore it when it doesn't suit them. And that goes for health effects as well. Long Island people, 30 miles away was an acceptable distance to turbines, and we can be living under them 1,000 feet. That's our standard, but 30 miles for Como's supporters, because that's the guys that vote for them, and that's the guys he wants to protect. But upstate New York is supposedly not his demographics, and so who cares? Let's just put them there. And that has been really, really, really painful. I felt at war in my own home because we wrote letters and we knocked on all the doors and nobody listened. So anybody who's going to stand up for the politicians in Albany, they need to hear these things. They need to hear these personal stories, and it needs to be discussed in all reasonability. Responsible siting is what we need. Okay, good. I sometimes compare this green energy, this whole Green New Deal with the Manhattan Project. Let's just build a bomb and then we'll deal with the fallout later. Even though in Europe, it is already proven that the environmental impacts, the social impacts, the economic impacts of the inland wind are too high, and they're moving away from it. So why are we still on this big push to try and push this through? Again, there are very few benefits to these projects, unproven carbon benefits, but there are many proven health, economic, social impacts that need to be exposed. That's why I came here. What? How do we find more information? Well, we have a website also, and you Google Broome County Concerned Citizens, or BCCR, or you can go to the DPS website and look at the Bluestone wind case. The number is 16-F0559. That's where everything is filed. Bluestone wind. Google it on the DPS site, and you will find. Look into the Audubon filings if you want to be looking into the eagle issues. Audubon Society has filed a lot. 25 bird organizations wrote Como a letter and said, anywhere but here, please, not here. Nothing. We haven't heard anything back, and we're keeping finding this. And thank you for inviting me today. Thank you.
Oh, yes. I love the fact that we don't want to simply accept that what some governor says is true is automatically true. We want to be able to decide what effect we want to have in our own environment, in our own homes. And thank you for all the information that now we can look up and see and decide for ourselves what we want to do. This is what America's supposed to be about. Let's make sure it is what America is about. This is why I'm so happy to be supporting the people here right now who are saying what they believe to be true in their own local community. I have one more person I want to bring up, because the biggest piece of all of this is the idea of, to what I said, right? Who's doing this? Why are they doing it? Where's the information? The idea of being transparent for all of us. I want to bring up someone to talk about that. This person was a government contractor in Albany for 15 years. Boy, the stuff he's seen. Okay, but he's born and raised in this area, and he is worried that his area that he cares about, that he lives in, is being ruined. And I bring up right now, Bill Pratt.
Thank you, Larry. Thanks, Tom, for inviting us to be part of the press conference. I think it's important that while I'm not here to try to educate the public on all of the different factions that are involved with this process, a little bit of history, I think, is necessary. In 2011, the New York State Legislature passed a public service law that empowered a siting board to authorize the construction and operation of major electric generating facilities. Since that time, there has been 23 wind projects that's gone through the Article 10 system. Not one single one of these has been denied by the board. So this leads you to believe that they're just rubber stamping it so that they can be in compliance with the governor's green energy agenda. I think for this reason, a lot of upstate legislators especially have called the Article 10 process a sham.
Yes.
That's their words.
Yes.
Nothing more than smoke and mirrors intended to mislead local residents and small town officials into thinking that they actually have a say in the process, when in reality, they do not. Let's look at the reality. The siting board itself is made up of 7 members. 5 of those members are politically appointed department heads. Department heads for DEC, NCON, Department of Health, and so on. Department of Public Service. 2 of the members are what they call ad hoc members, who are not appointed, but they are nominated by the host community. Like in Guilford, like in Broome County, same thing. All right? What's funny about this, well, it's not funny at all, but what's odd about this is that that automatically gives the bureaucracy in Albany a 5-2 vote on everything. So it's impossible. It's impossible for the New York State residents, the host community, the people that are going to be affected by these things, to have any meaningful vote on the decisions made by the siting board. So this is discouraging. Now, so like I said, in every case, no matter what the decision is, it's going to get voted in favor of the governor's agenda. Now, to further illustrate this point, I want to bring up something that happened here just a few months ago. One of the ad hoc members representing the town of Guilford resigned from the siting board. And he made some pretty severe remarks about what he's witnessed while he was on that board. And I want to share these with you. I think it's important. He stated that the board's definition of the law were ambiguous, manipulative, ill-conceived, and puts the common good of the general welfare of the communities in harm's way. He went on to say that it willfully misinterprets the law and has no intention of protecting the welfare of the communities, nor to fulfill the true responsibility of protecting the public interest. He also charged that the board has become callous and reckless. And he concluded by saying that the community's participation in the form of an ad hoc member, speaking of himself, has proven to be disingenuous and lacks true merit. And it seems to be for the sole purpose of offering the appearance that New York State is concerned about the public's health and welfare. In addition, there's little or no accountability to the developer. And the whole system is designed to promote this. The developer comes in with their application that states all these pie-in-the-sky benefits that are supposed to be for the host community. Some of the 3 biggest ones that I recall are first, jobs. They claim that there's going to be a lot of temporary jobs during the construction phase. And they say that there's going to be a few full-time jobs after the facility is built and it's in operation. What they fail to do is tell you the real story. And the siting board and the local governments, if they're proponents of the projects, totally ignore this. They take these pie-in-the-sky promises at face value. They don't challenge them. They just rubber stamp and say, oh, they said this, so it must be true. All right? But in reality, those jobs, most of them come from out of state. They're highly technical jobs. I mean, let's face it, to put up a wind turbine does require a lot of technical expertise, am I right? So the people in town of Guilford, as much as I love these people, I can honestly say that I doubt there are anybody here in the host community that has the technical skills required to do these jobs. So it doesn't make rocket science to figure out that most of these jobs are not going to be from the local host community. In fact, all you got to do is look at some of the projects that have already been passed. Take a look at the license plates. They don't even come from New York. So the state benefit, the county benefit, and the local benefit, which is what they like to use all three of these entities. But in fact, what it does is it waters down the impact or the lack of benefit for the host community. That they say, well, we say that there's going to be more jobs, but those jobs don't come from Guilford. They come from where? They come from low area towns and villages. And I love this part, the greater southern tier job market. Now, I can't tell you what area that covers, but I'm sure it covers most of the southern tier as the name implies. All right. Guilford is just one speck on that little property map. So again, the reality is those jobs aren't going to be coming from Guilford. So the residents of Guilford have no real benefit as far as jobs. Then just last week, we learned with the activities going on in our neighbors down here in Broome County, the developer came right out and said that the two permanent full-time jobs that they put in their application, guess what? They're now saying that they plan to share those jobs between the Bluestone project and High Bridge project. So that means that those two jobs, even themselves, aren't going to be coming strictly for Guilford tax-paying residents, right? So there's no benefit there either. And I think, one of the other things that, other than jobs, is they claim that there's going to be a lot of money spent in town. And it's going to be a boon to our economic good being by, all these construction workers are going to be, funneling thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into our local community. Again, let's look at the reality here. They cite that there's going to be, they need hotels, motels for these places to stay. They're going to need restaurants for these people to eat. They're going to need to spend money in stores to buy their supplies and goods and stuff. Okay, now in Guilford, do we have any hotels or motels? No, we do not. All right. Do we have any large stores? No, we do not. Guilford has one dollar store right up the road here and two convenience/gas stations. And when I try to rationalize this, I think, okay, even if these construction workers, supported all these three entities, how much money does that come back to benefit the town, the people in the town of Guilford? How are we supposed to see any benefit from that? It's so minuscule that it doesn't even matter. Now, just with a couple of examples, I could go on for hours, but Larry's told me that I can't.
I'm a bad guy.
He's a bad guy. But the important thing here is that all of this information, this disinformation, is allowed to come to the public.
Yeah.
They're not challenged one bit by any of the people, either in local government, county government, or state government. They're not challenging these people to be honest and forthright so that we, the people, have the true picture of what's going on around. Now, I want to just talk about the fact that now we've had the siting board, and we've shown how disingenuous that siting board is. I think it's important to note that earlier this year, I think it was April, the governor was getting a lot of flack from his buddies, the developers, the wind people, saying that this process was too slow. It wasn't going fast enough. Well, the reality is it wasn't going fast enough. They had a chance of losing some of their
government's funded incentives. That's the reality. So what the governor did, because he normally does this when he can't get support from his legislature, he put through a new bill as part of this budget. And in this bill, it was called the Renewable Energy Growth and Community Benefit Act. I thought that was kind of disingenuous just in the name itself. Community Benefit Act. Let's think that one over again. But anyway, within that, they created a new office because the siting board obviously, well, it seemed like they were towing the line to me, but apparently not well enough. So he created a new office called the Office of Renewable Energy Siting, or ORES. And there's a whole bunch of rules and regulations that they've been charged to create as part of this new regime. And there are some very critical elements in this thing. And with your permission, I'd like to just go over a couple of these. First of all, it will make it much easier for the state to approve and win projects over the objections of local community. It generally lightens the health and safety and environmental impacts due to making the compliance easier for the developer at the cost of the public health and safety. It requires a shorter environmental impact review, which will make it easier to clear cut the forests and do away with the existing farmlands. Developers will be able to mitigate negative impacts by paying into the fund that benefits the entire state, lessening the benefit to the local host community. The new process eliminates the public involvement program. Here's something that everybody can be concerned about. It basically does away with the pre-application scoping phase and part of the public involvement program that was a big part of the old Article 10 process. And there is no mandate for meaningful public participation. Not that there's been any meaningful public participation to begin with.
Is there a place that we can see that list?
Well, it's been published on the New York State Department of Public Service website. They lead you to a new website by the state that's been created for this new agency. I don't have the link right in front of me. We'll have it up on our website, I think.
What's your website?
Well, it's www.saveguilford.com.
There we go.
So I'm going to cut to the chase and just hit the last three subjects here. The new siting process is basically doing away with all the individual standard approval conditions that are required under the new Article 10. Basically, they're going to create their own rules and regulations, right, that all of the new people are going to have to comply with, all the new developers. Just like the siting board, ORES will be able to basically disavow any local regulations by declaring it unreasonably burdensome. Last but certainly not least, and this is something that everybody here should be very worried about, that while ORES itself does not have the ability to impose eminent domain, this law creates a partnership with NYSERDA. NYSERDA has the power to acquire people's lands by eminent domain. What they will do is they will take the eminent domain, obtain permits from ORES, and then bid out shovel-ready jobs to the developers. And so with that, you can see that it leaves all of us right out of the whole picture. So it's gone from bad to worse, folks. And that's about all I can say. Anya, help me with that.
November 16th is going to be big debate for the public complete about this new law.
Okay, November 16th is going to be the public hearings regarding this new law and the new entity, ORES.
Where will that
And
be?
it'll be probably virtual for most of us. Again, we'll make sure to put that on our website. I'm sure that Ann will put it on her website.
SaveGuilford.com. There we go. I love so much to see that kind of passion, that kind of desire to make things right, a desire to get the truth out is amazing. You find so often, where do we find where the real truth comes out? It's local. because local people really care about their local areas, right? Local people really care. I'm so happy to hear that. And I want to bring up someone right now who put this whole thing together. Someone who cares so much about his little community. He chose to do the terrible thing of run for office. I don't know why he did, but he did. He decided to run for office to try to make things better, try to make things right. You can find him at tom452.com, of course, but it's the man himself, Tom Tweeter.
I really want to thank everyone for coming out. The weather is not very conducive to standing around in the rain. I actually remember being kicked out of the board of elections. People there, they made us stand in the rain. So we didn't get sick. Yeah. So, the fact that you're here just shows us how important these things are. The weather is terrible. It's cold. I don't know about the rest of you. I was shivering, still am. If people are willing to come stand out in the rain late October to discuss this, they must really care about their communities.
Yes.
Now, I'm not just here as a candidate, but as a resident. This is my home. This is my family's land. There were a lot of health issues discussed over this. I am a disability advocate, but let's get to the point here. It has become obvious that this and other industrial turbine projects are not efficient. I'm here to support the Guilford Coalition non-participating residents who are locally concerned citizens. I'm here to support the Bluestone Group, locally concerned citizens. I have supported many different groups of locally concerned citizens for different reasons across the district. That's what a public servant is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I think about the economy too much, but let's face it, these projects are funded in part by what's called a pilot program. That's a payment in lieu of taxes. That's where these companies get to pay a smaller amount up front instead of paying the full tax burden that the rest of us have to pay.
Ooh.
They won't have to pay sales tax. They won't have to pay the fees on the loans you take out to build them. The majority of what they're reporting would come in should be from those taxes. What's going to happen, because these companies aren't paying taxes, your taxes will go up. That burden will come down on both our counties and our towns, and your property taxes and anything else they could raise will go up. This is New York. We can't afford that. Our governor and the legislature treat our tax system as if they can keep filling a leaky bucket. Does not work. When there's a hole in it, it runs out. Sooner or later, our tax base will run out. Our programs that we need are going to collapse. And the communities are going to be left with that burden. They're going to be left in that despair. Bill spoke of Art Christian. He's a local community member I've been familiar with most of my life, as was his father. Having only 2 of 7 members of the siting board being locally concerned citizens is completely inappropriate. When they make appointed positions, what they're making is positions of control. Now I'm going to go on and quote some more of Art's rather scathing resignation letter. It was 3 pages, written to the chair of the siting board by the name of John Rose. And he states, the decision by New York State to accept an ambiguous definition of public interest is, as Bill said earlier, manipulative, ill-conceived, and puts the common good and general welfare of the communities. The siting board is charged with protecting in harm's way. It was proven by the siting board's subsequent vote on the High Bridge project over whether evidence of the impact on property value was relevant. Unconscionably, the siting board voted 5 regular as non-community members to the 2 community members and won that vote, stating that your property values were not relevant. This is New York. To a lot of people, their property value is the last thing they have in life. Resale of that property is important. Robert Rosenthal, a New York City lawyer, determined that in addition to all of the pilots and other tax breaks the town would give these communities, the siting board also determined any diminution of property values to adjacent property owners was not allowed to be considered. Your rights were not allowed to be considered. And they did this when determining if the project was in the public interest. Who is the public? You're the public. Your rights were not allowed to be considered. Why do we have this siting board? What are they doing? What they're doing is putting on airs. They're saying, we're here to look out for your interests, but they're not really there to look out for your interests. Now, Art finished his resignation letter by saying, with great disappointment, I hereby forfeit my role as an ad hoc member of the siting board 18-F-A262. You can Google that, 18-F-A-262, in protest to its malfeasance, its structure, and its administration that has facilitated a process in which the public interest becomes secondary. Your interest has become secondary to Albany. This is Guilford. This is not Albany. Even this minimum amount of dissent was so intolerable to Governor Cuomo that he abolished the siting board, replacing it with the ordinance board. Am I saying that right, Bill? Having removed all public input over public interest, I reiterate need for transparent public referendums on such projects. Windmills, any project in which a siting board like this, in this manner, is overlooking your rights and making it secondary to the greed of those in Albany. We need a public referendum that is transparent.
Yes. Yes.
I have done some of my own research, and I have seen that in other places in the world, including Israel and Ireland, these projects have been stopped over the public interest. And yet your interest, the public's interest here is not being considered. You are secondary to the greed in Albany. Now, my name is Thomas Daniel Queter. I am running for Senate in District 52. And let me tell you why I'm running. Welcome to Route 8, folks. We have to wait for the truck. In the last 2 years, I brought myself back from extreme suffering and the potential for death at the hands of government policy. I did this for my own tenacity, my family, my community, and the libertarians I've been networking with across the nation. We are our country's fastest growing party, and a vote for me is a vote for our community. It's a vote for yourself.
Yes.
I want to thank Larry and everyone else who came up here and spoke. They were very brave to come up here and do this live on 2 feeds at once. And yes, we are sending this to the press. Let us end Cuomo's oppression by getting involved, by voting out the established incumbents, the incumbents who were established, who have been there too long. these are the ones making out from all of these different projects and any other policy that does not have your interest in mind. We need to return to a way of life that works for us and not them.
Yes.
All of my policy initiatives are out in the open. They're transparent. They're there to be seen at tomfor52.com, TOMFOR52.com. I urge you to go look at them. I urge you to read them thoroughly. If there's anything that you have a problem with, I have made the commitment to be as accessible of a candidate as I can be. Send us a message, send us an email. The phone number is on the website. I refuse to surrender to policy control. It does not work for our communities. And lastly, again, I want to thank everybody for coming out this weather. I'm sure you're as cold as I am. And I want to thank all of our presenters for being here today.
I just want to say to everybody, is this okay? Yeah, I just want to say to everybody, there we go. Is that better? There we go. I just want to say to everybody, thank you so much for coming today. All of you came, all of you who are watching. The number one thing to remember here is what brought all of these people together. What brought all of these issues to actually come out and to be out in social media and in the actual mainstream media. It was Tom's campaign. That's what made all of this happen. If this matters to you, if you care about things like this, you might say, Larry, I don't live on the southern tier. I don't live in central New York. Yeah, but this stuff happens to you too. What happens here happens to you in your communities also. And if you care and you want people like Tom to be out here supporting local people, having you to live the way you want to live, then support his campaign. Head over to tom452rightnow.com right now. Click that donate button. Donate what you can. If you can donate something, go ahead. If you can't donate, no worries. He needs your help anyway. Like, share, comment, be his social media warrior. He needs that too. But if you got some cash, what's your maximum you can take?
11,800 from individual.
So those of you who want to give him 15 grand, you can't. I know. Put the checkbook away, not 15. Instead, give him $11,000. He'll be fine. Or even 10 would work. And so would 15 bucks or 20. Whatever you could. He needs signs. He still needs Facebook ads. Help him out. If you care about your community like he does, if you're ready to make this happen like he is, if I drove 4 hours for this, you can throw him 10 bucks. All right, guys. Thank you so much today. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Guys, thank you so much. Really, thank you.